Hello, welcome to 5 Questions with LeRoy Butler, and we are here with the 500 edition, 5 and 5. It's been a long time since the Packers have been 500 this late in the season.
Losing 3 in a row, though.
Yeah, three in a row.
Has that ever happened since you?
The last time it happened, I looked it up, it was in 2008, I believe.
Okay.
Last time they lost 2 in a row was in 2010 during the Super Bowl season.
I wonder how many times they lost in a row at home.
Well, that one we'll have to see.
Yeah, I know, because
It's been a long time.
you got to beat Minnesota. We all know that.
Yeah.
We can get into this Giant game because there's a lot of frustration.
Let's get into first subject. There's 2 subjects people want to talk about: Scott Tolzein and Dom Capers. Let's talk about Scott Tolzein first.
So I thought he didn't play all that bad, but the interceptions obviously are a problem.
Well, we looked at all 3 interceptions, and to be honest, 2 of those were just great defensive plays.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The John Beeson one was a very, very good play. We both remember Aaron Rodgers throwing that same interception.
Well, quite a few quarterbacks. Drew Brees has done the same thing when a linebacker takes the fake and comes out. You really don't see him. I know people that doesn't sound that really, but really you don't see him in your progression because you're assuming the guy takes the fake, he's up in the line of scrimmage, and it's a wide open area to go from your progression from outside in.
Right.
But when you go your progression inside out, it's different. So it is a great football play.
Tell me what you liked about Tolzien. We looked at one play, and we'll show it on X's and O's.
Yeah.
It's a good example of his footwork. But what did you like? What were the good things that made you think that he could be successful?
Well, the reason why I agree with McCarthy to make him the starter, because I like his progression. That means I looked at every single throw, and the touch that he put on at least 10 of those passes, they're phenomenal.
They're on the mark.
They were right where you wanted it to be, to where the receiver had to reach for it, high and outside, or low and inside, that I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
But he threw what we call a timing route to Boykin, which is a stop and go. Most quarterbacks either overthrow or underthrow that. He put it right on the money.
Yeah.
And we're going to show a play at X and O's where he did his ball handling skills, not to be here for a long time, looked very good. So I think that's the reason why the team wants to continue to build on his progression and his productivity.
Yeah.
And he threw for a lot of yards, too.
Yeah, he threw for a lot of yards. Now, the one thing about the interceptions, the only one that, where you just said that was a bad throw was the last one, and he was trying to make something happen.
Right, yeah.
So we'll see.
And the one he threw to Pierre-Paul, I think that's a little bit of film study and studying, because the guy has long arms. If you're going to throw it out there, to him, you got to either have the tackle cut the guy by or cut him, so get his hands down, or you got to throw it on a different trajectory over those long arms.
And McCarthy noted that he was in sort of a flat-footed stance, which means he was going to drop back. Aaron Rodgers would have probably picked that up. Scott Tolzien hadn't seen that a lot.
Right, absolutely. So I attribute it to that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Before we get into Capers and the defense, one thing we saw was that the running game is starting to slow down. Teams are coming up and playing Eddie Lacy, and Eddie Lacy is not looking quite like the same back. You think he's wearing down, or is this just a matter of teams doing a good job stopping him?
I think it's a combination of both, but I think they got to give him a chance, though. One time he got the ball, there's 4 guys waiting on him.
Yeah.
The offensive line did not have their best outlook. I think Newhouse and Lang on the right, Evan Dietrich-Smith the middle, Bakhtiari and Sitton. I mean, those guys, you can't block everybody, Tom, but they got to block to where he has one guy to beat before he's into the secondary. But Sunday, he had to beat 2 guys before he's into the secondary.
Right.
But teams going to bring up 8 and 9 man fronts, as did Chicago. They got him to that first level. They had one guy to beat. He ran through that guy and made some big runs. But that's why people say, why does Tolzien throwing 34 and 39 times the last 2 games? They have to throw when you got 9 guys up there trying to stop the run.
Right. Okay, let's go to the defense. We looked at some really bad play.
It seemed like the secondaries, I know they went into the game wanting to disguise.
Right.
Now, did you you talked about that.
Yeah.
So,
they
with the
wanted to
coaches.
show Eli Manning a lot of different looks because he's very good at
And
dissecting.
that makes sense.
You know, just keep him off balance a little
Yeah.
bit. But from what we saw, it discombobulated the defense more than it did Eli Manning. They weren't consistent with how they played their
'cause
scheme, right?
One thing I tried to do when I was playing safety is if I rotate in disguise, my linebackers have to do it as well. If I'm just doing it in the two safeties, that's not really a disguise. You got to get the linebackers to everybody got to move synchronized to let the quarterback guess what we're doing. But the problem is when it's just 42 and 43 disguising the rotation, you kind of forget where you're supposed to be. And if sometimes Eli Manning could have been going outside, but his tight end is wide open.
Yeah.
And you just dump it to him. Or, you take back last year when Casey Hayward was playing, Cruz had 3 catches for 36 yards, wasn't even a factor. But he's not out there. Micah Hyde is in the inside.
Yeah, big
And
difference.
I really feel, and I put it on Twitter, at Leap36, and at Tom Silverstein, that 33, Micah Hyde should be playing safety.
Yeah.
And if they want to move 43 close to the line of scrimmage, let him play some zone, or 42 up or something, 33, I think, may serve them better at safety than in the slot trying to cover the slot receivers.
He can't cover a quick receiver like Victor Cruz. I mean, that was a terrible matchup. And they didn't intend for him, Sam Shields.
With Sam Shields, right.
But I don't care. It's still, you have to have a backup plan.
Sure.
And the backup plan should have been, somehow getting Tremont Williams into the slot covering Cruz.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the good thing about us, we could dissect it and look at it, but the coaches, they seem like they got the right information, and we're going to talk about the X's and O's as well. If you're going to disguise and you're where you're supposed to be, the coaches got to be pulling their hair out because they're giving them the right opportunity to make the plays. You just got to trust yourself and go make the play.
Well, and it also doesn't seem like all of them have a good concept of what they're, a big picture concept of what they're doing. And we'll show that in X's and O's that, guys are just not quite where they're supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, the rotation is very important, especially when you want to play a lot of deep third. Everybody got a third, 3/3, and then everybody just kind of drops.
Yeah.
But you got to know which way to drop, what's the yardage, and then what's my assignment.
Yeah.
Because if one guy's off, most good quarterbacks, they'll find it. And Eli Manning went into that game throwing 16 interceptions.
Yeah, exactly.
Although Tremont Williams did get one,
and
I think they're still last in the league.
Just going to bring him up. The one bright spot they did have was he played probably his best game.
I think he played his best
year,
game. Yeah.
Right. And they need that. I mean, if he can get on some kind of momentum and start to pick it up when Shields comes back. Shields was already playing pretty well.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden they have 2 good corners, right?
Yeah, and I think for the most part, Tremont is the leader back there. You got to have one corner that's got to be up to the level. He tackled very well. That's what I liked about it.
He was on a mission tackling.
Yeah, and I wish everybody else can get on that mission. But the good news is a lot of the mistakes that they were making, I think they'll see it from leaders like Tremont and say, he's made this pick, I got to step up to make one, or I got to get to where I want to be. And they got to trust their natural instincts and go out, pull the trigger, and make these plays, and hopefully they can do that. And that's what the tackling is. The tackling is an attitude, Tom.
Yeah.
I used to miss a lot of tackles at one point, and I said, I got to figure out why. And I looked at my distance from the running back. I was already making my move with my head ducking. So I said to myself, before the running back makes a move, I'm going to take one more step closer before I make my move. Don't let the running back know which way I'm going. I'm going to go right at him, and right before I make my attacking move, I'm going to make sure I'm so close I can touch him.
Right.
That made me a better tackler.
Yeah, and they've talked about that. That is the
you got to
closer
close that gap. You can't make it this far away. Most running backs will go around you.
Right.
And you kind of naturally duck your head. If you get close gap, even if it's Barry Sanders, the closer you got, you can stop him. We held him to negative yards, by the way. I don't know if you know that.
I kind of remember that game,
Okay.
But
Don't want to brag.
yeah, it was also like 20 degrees below zero,
true.
too. But, Reggie White had a little to do with it.
Oh, he had a lot to do with it.
Actually, a lot of the guys had a lot to do with it. It was a good game. But what you're talking about is going to apply as much as any time this week with Adrian Peterson. You can't be afraid and wait for him to come at you, right?
Absolutely. I mean, he's not having a great year. I mean, last week he had 21 carries for 65 yards, so they're still giving him the ball 20 times. But it just seemed like last year he had a great game against two great games against the Packers. Even the playoff game, he had a great game. But the last time the Packers played them, they had him and held him in check.
Yeah.
This time, don't know who their quarterback's going to be, but Adrian Peterson is still Adrian Peterson.
Right.
So you don't want them to come in Lambeau Field and feel like they have a chance.
So, yeah. Thanks for joining us. Be sure you join X's and O's. I think it's going to be our best one of
It'll be
the
very
year. And
we're going to fix some of the problems.
We're going to look at them, and you're going to fix them. See you next week.